Oh, welcome back. Now, last year, former Democratic Alliance member and the executive mayor of the city of Johannesburg, Herman Mashaba, tweeted a picture of himself and former DA leader Mmusi Maimane, which of course led to speculation as to whether the two would actually join forces to establish a new political party. They invited those who were interested in what they had to say to what is called a people's dialogue in mid-December. So, what has come out of that the People's Dialogue, and what's the way forward for the duo in 2020? Herman Mashaba is here now to talk to us about it. Mmusi Maimane unfortunately could not make it. He was supposed to come but informed us yesterday that he has other commitments. So welcome, Mr. Herman Mashaba, and happy 2020.
Yes, good morning, and thank you so much, and Happy New Year.
So how has it been outside the DA?
Well, it's been another journey of any human being. Our lives over the years. As you are aware, I'm 16, not a young man, and actually every time I reflect on this life, it actually keeps on changing different terms. But I think what I'm glad about it is that my life, honestly, over the last 60 years has been taking different turns, but very positive ones, and I'm actually quite excited about that.
And of course, the latter part of your life has been as the mayor of the city of Johannesburg, and we all know by now, well documented, how you left that position, left the Democratic Alliance along with the likes of Mmusi Maimane. And people have been, of course, very curious to see where this would lead to. So the People's Dialogue in December, how did that go?
Well, the thing is, Sakina, I think I want people to really be very clear about this. I've emphasized, but I know people sometimes take time to really understand some of this dynamics. Repetition. I mean, I come from a very strong marketing background. I made it very clear when I left the DA. I left the DA completely on my own, not informed by someone else's decision. It was my own decision after the 3-year experience that this is not really taking us anywhere, having resistance. And unfortunately, 2 years left into election, into the next local government elections. But unfortunately, I did not really want to associate with people I don't share the same values with. And obviously, upon my departure, I then felt the need to engage South Africans, looking at how dysfunctional our political system has been, how spectacular 25 years of our democracy has been a failure with. I can really give you the indicators. We all know what's going wrong in this country. I mean, I remember on Friday receiving the latest report negative about South Africa, that the business confidence is actually sitting at 34-year low. And yesterday, a few days ago, reading the paper, international governments sending the warnings to their residents visiting South Africa, that South Africa is a very violent country, where the other day in Mpumalanga, one international woman gang raped. I mean, and you said to yourself, what the hell is going on? A few hours later, I hear and learn about 9 tourists in Khayelitsha and Cape Town being dropped. And in the meantime, we are suffering. Our economy, World Bank last week just released talking about how the economy of South Africa will not really get anywhere close to 1% economic growth. In the meantime, almost 39% unemployment, and just under 11 million of our people are not employed. I then said, someone has got to do something. But at the end of the day, do I have answers, as Herman Mashaba said? I don't have. I then really found a way to say, look, let me just really as a contribution, my own personal contribution to the country, start a second CODESA, because the first CODESA prior to 1994 benefited politicians, and there's no way that current politicians would want to change this dysfunctional system. I said, let me start the second CODESA, but this CODESA must be driven by civil society. And I'm glad to inform you, Sakina, that the response thus far, I'm a very positive person in life. And I knew and I had a sense that we were going to succeed. But the response has been phenomenal. Millions of contributions, great real contribution. And what I like about the contribution we are receiving, a contribution that resonates with me, a contribution that actually I realize that majority of South Africans actually share the same values as I am. But the platform is running until the end of February, and by end of March at the latest, I will then present a report which will become a national asset, and then after start a political movement that must obviously then deal with the issues that South Africans are raising going forward.
So why civil society? Why do you want civil society to drive this dialogue, firstly? And secondly, what is the overall objective of this particular exercise?
Well, Sakina, I'm sure you are aware, and I hope South Africans are aware and are listening. You know, the recent elections we had, almost 56% of eligible South Africans did not vote. We live in a democracy that is really relatively new, in a country that is spectacularly failing. But at the same time, people are not going out. And anyone can do the research. Why do you think South Africans are staying away from voting? Because they've given up. They don't really know what to do. They believe they don't have the powers. So that is why I've initiated this program, so that people can actually understand that individually and collectively, we have the responsibility. If we have to save this country, we are not going to save this country by AK-47s. We are going to save this country by actually, as civil society, standing up for our rights, standing up to go and vote, standing up for making sure that we hold political parties accountable. That the power does not lie with the politicians, lie with civil society. Politicians have to respond to what civil society wants. And it's for that reason that I thought, let me educate South Africans to really wake up, to assist us in saving our country.
That's a very interesting assertion, because why should politicians respond to what civil society wants as opposed to what society at large wants? I mean, and I find it all the more curious because you yourself have had, you know, a bit of a problem with one civil society organization, namely the Institute for Race Relations. You wrote to their board of directors because you felt that they had basically immersed themselves in the internal party politics of the Democratic Alliance.
Yes, I think we call the Race Relations a civil society organization. I think, unfortunately, I wrote that letter realizing that Institute of Race Relations, it's now becoming a lobby group for the DA. We experience in South Africa the Guptas capturing the ANC. And do I sit back as the South Africans allow other organizations capture political parties? And I thought, let me actually be quite vocal about this. Governments need to listen to individual civil society members, not lobby groups. So if you, Institute of Race Relations, used to be a policy organization, and a fantastic one for that matter. I remember many years ago, I grew up actually with high regard for the Institute. And right now, I don't know really what happened. But fortunately enough, I mean, I've got it on good record that the board had no knowledge of this plan to capture the DA. It's for that reason I've requested the board to really come out very clear. Did the officials have the mandate to lobby for the DA? If they did not, then I want the board to really tell us and take appropriate action, because ultimately the buck stops with them.
Have they responded to you?
Well, I wrote to them yesterday, and they don't have to respond to me, because they don't represent me. They represent civil society, that represent the country. Let them give that response.
But you're asking the question.
Yes, I'm asking the question, and I don't know if you read the letter. The letter is actually directed, it's an open letter to the board. And I don't expect them to respond to me. Let them respond to people they claim to represent as to whether they've now become a lobby group, or have they obviously keeping to the mandate of being a policy research organization.
Going back to the role that civil society organizations have been accused of playing, because what you're accusing the Institute of Race Relations of, the ANC have said, you know, several times that they question the bona fides of many civil society organizations in terms of what it is that they are actually agitating for. Do you agree with that sentiment?
Yeah, well, look, the thing is, if you decide you form an organization to be a research organization or policy organization, as working with every a single part of the civil society, then play that role. But if you decide to become a lobby group or come out openly that IRR is an extension of the DA, then that's fine. That we understand. But don't obviously, I think, misrepresent yourself in public, because these are public institutions. We're dealing with very, very serious matters. You can imagine what this action has actually activity has created, led into my resignation and subsequent to that, Mmusi Maimane. Whereas the IRR is not really their space. Yes, they must work with all political parties, be DA, ANC, EFF, and so forth, anyone who's looking for research material for them to really provide. But if they become a lobby group, that basically means that other political parties must stay away from them. And so anyone has got a right to really challenge. When you come out into a public space with an organization, really be clear and be honest with civil society what your organization's role is.
But he who alleges also has the burden to prove. And you say that the Institute for Race Relations has essentially staged a coup within the Democratic Alliance.
It's a Gupta of the DA. I mean, I wrote an article before Helen's election making it abundantly clear that, we had a very terrible experience as a country, the Guptas capturing the ANC. And I said, how do I sit back and allow the DA to be captured by another organization under my watch? And I said, for that reason, I'm out of here, because I don't personally want to really associate with such clandestine organizations. I need to, when I operate with people, let's operate with clear, honestly and clear intentions, so that I know who you represent, because I'll never really misrepresent myself to anyone. I take tough decisions throughout my life. I'm not in this world to make friends. But one thing for sure, I value friendship. I will never really mislead someone. You either know what I stand, where I stand on issues, or you don't. But I don't really have the time for wishy-washy. As soon as I realize that you operate in a clandestine fashion, I don't want to really be associated with you, because I don't, at the same time, I expect someone else not to associate with me if they discover that I have malicious intentions.
So you stand by that assertion that the Democratic Alliance has been captured?
Fully. Stand by that they've been captured by the IRR, unless the IRR can prove us otherwise. It is for that reason I wrote them that open letter. Let them really tell us, if they captured the DA, what role did they play? Look, there's enough evidence of their involvement before the election of Helen Zille, and I gave some of the examples. So let them prove us otherwise, and tell us what role did the board played in this matter. Because fortunate enough, I have it on full authority, and I exposed this even before the Helen Zille's election, that there is a cabal within the IRR and the DA actually working on taking over the DA, and it happened on the 20th of October 2019.
So coming back to the People's Dialogue, many are asking whether this is a precursor to a political party.
Well, I think I had an interview on this particular platform when I launched, and thank you very much for giving that opportunity. Being very clear, I don't play games with the people. I said, I don't have answers to South Africa's problem. Let me engage civil society to see if civil society and I are on the same page. Let me give you an example of things that for me are not negotiable. For me to really be a leader of anything. The question of our electoral system, that is favoring politicians. Do we need the revision of our electoral system so that public officials, be ward councillors, be members of parliament, to be elected by us, the voters? Do we agree on the rule of law? Do you agree that South Africa needs to really have borders, strong controlled borders? Because if South Africans, a majority of South Africans are saying, Mashaba, you are xenophobic once you talk about borders. For me, very, very strong. As far as borders are concerned, we want people of the world to come to South Africa, but they must come here legally. And when they're here, they must respect our laws. But South Africans might differ with me to say, look, you are crazy, you are xenophobic. Let South Africans' borders be open. Fine. Once this report comes out and South Africans are of the view that they don't need borders, they want people to really come in, I'm happy to step aside and go and really do something. I'm over 60, I can apply for SASSA. I'm fortunate enough, I qualify for SASSA. Things like our educational system, which is just really producing numbers. We don't care what type of educational outcomes we get. It's about just really passing our children. Are we really serious about dealing with this matter? What's our view on corruption? People who commit corruption. What do we say about jobs in the economy? I'm a very strong believer in free market economy. I believe government's role is to create a conducive environment for businesses to operate, particularly small businesses. Government does not have the resources nor the expertise to really drive the economy. I believe in free market economy. So if South Africans want a socialist state where the state is the one that runs the economy, honestly, I'm happy to go to SASSA and apply to SASSA and live on that 1,800 rands a month. I don't know how I will survive, but I will not really want to really lead a movement like that. But at the end of the day, if South Africans can come out in the millions on this platform with a contribution to say, you know, we agree on those fundamental matters, I can tell you I'm happy to continue saving this country. And fortunate enough, 6 weeks into this dialogue to run until the end of September, so far the indications are overwhelming to indicate that we need a new political formation based on some of the principles that I've shared. And but the announcement will only be made once I get a full report by end of March at the latest. But one thing I'm proud, and obviously I think without any fear of contradiction, I can say to South Africa, with millions of submissions already received, it appears that South Africans and we share the same fears. We are a great people. We are a positive people. We want to create a non-racial South Africa. We want to deal with this issue of South Africa being the most unequal society so that our poor people can really be the focus of this government, not to really leave it to chance, because that's something that's not negotiable to me. I got into politics and into public office, something that I never thought I would do, because I'm concerned about the living conditions of our people here in the city of Johannesburg and everywhere else. So I'm committed to run a pro-poor government. I'm committed to create a non-racial South Africa. I'm committed in ensuring that we run a free market economy driven by the private sector, with the government obviously laying the policies and the framework on how they must operate. So this is just really some of the issues. And as I said, luckily the responses, millions of responses received to date are indicating that South Africans and I are on the same page. However, because I've committed to run this exercise until the end of February, I can't just really close it. I think let me give more South Africans, but one thing I commit is that by a middle to end of February of 2020, we will without any doubt release a report which will be a public document, and on the basis of that, then we'll form a political party to compete the 2021 local government elections.
So you are going to form a political party?
Based on the information we've received to date. But now we are still we have to run until the end of February. Maybe some people might overwhelm those that wants us to form a political party.
But let's just be clear. A few seconds ago, you said, I'm committed to running a pro-poor government. So, as you and I are speaking right now, you are going to form a political party.
No, Zakira, listen to me.
That's what you said, and I'm quoting your words back to you.
Yes, based on submissions received to date. But because we committed to run this exercise until the end of February, so we can't, because we've received a couple of millions of submissions, therefore we must close before the deadline.
I get that you're going through the motions in that regard.
But based on the submissions received today, without any doubt, without any contradiction, if let's say I have to close the submissions today, I would really then say to you, definitely will open a political party based on the submissions received
You
today.
are going to open a political party, Mr. Mashaba.
Based
the
on,
submissions are
yeah.
simply going to determine your policy direction, perhaps,
Absolutely.
from what I'm
Absolutely.
hearing.
Yeah,
but there will be a new political party
Unless between now and end of February, we can get millions of other submissions that are saying, no, opening a political party is not a good idea. We will weigh up all this. But based on today, let's say, as I'm giving an example, if let's say I've got to close the submissions today, says with the submissions received to date, it's enough. We can now form a political party. However, I've committed to run this process until the end of February.
Okay.
So therefore, I don't think it will be fair to not let other South Africans who are still thinking about. Some of them are not aware. Some people are not aware that there is this platform open to them to engage. In fact, one of the things that I committed to do when I launched the platform was that from the middle of February of January until the end of February, we will even start going into the communities to engage them. And I don't know if you saw yesterday in the media, I've already started one-on-one interactions. We go into homes, we go into halls to engage communities, those who don't have access to technology. So I gave that commitment. Now you can imagine what you are asking is heaven. Forget about that. You've got enough evidence. I don't think it will be fair.
I'm just sifting through your words, and what I've established is a political party will be formed. At this point,
based on based on the
what
policies
you're looking
that
for now is the policy direction, the ideological positioning of this political party. But it is clear that there will be a political party. Mmusi Maimane, is he going to be part of this?
Well, I think, I made it really very clear that when I launched this program, that I will invite all South Africans, be Mmusi Maimane, be it Sakina, be Lien, be anyone. So I'm engaging anyone. I'm talking to Mmusi Maimane. In fact, I'm going to be having a meeting with him today to see. He's fortunately already endorsed the platform. But in terms of being part and parcel of this is not yet. So that's something that I'm engaging in, but not in Mmusi Maimane alone, because we've got 58 million South Africans. And I think for me, honestly and truly, and I said this from the beginning, I would really want ordinary South Africans to really be the ones taking ownership of this future of our children. So I will be engaging as many South Africans as possible, but please, don't really hope that I'm going to get all these prominent people and so forth, because we were failed by the old system. So I think, and I believe very strongly, and I'm a very strong believer that South Africans has got lots of talent which has been sidelined. Let me give you an example of what...
Before you give me the example, which civil society leaders or organizations have endorsed this?
No, I can tell you millions of ordinary South Africans, Mrs. Kuzayo.
I'm just curious to know which organizations are on board with this
It is not important. That is where we...
But it is important.
No, it's not.
If, for example,
it is important to you,
say,
but not important
Mr. Mashaba, and I'll tell you why it's important. As you say, you write an open letter to the Institute of Race Relations alleging that they have basically staged a coup and they've captured the Democratic Alliance. That would be important to people to know whether the IRR then is part of the civil society organizations that have endorsed
I think it's interesting, Sakina, what you are raising. Don't you think it's actually more important to get ordinary South Africans actually to be the one driving this?
No, but you said you've engaged civil society at this point.
Yes, civil society. I'm talking about ordinary South Africans.
I want to know which one of those groupings have endorsed the project.
I'm not to be honest with you, interested in getting endorsement from big civil society organizations. If they come on board, fine. My primary objective is to engage ordinary South Africans who are the ones who must take back the power from politicians. And all these people who are claiming to really be prominent, I think and strongly believe it is about ordinary Mrs. Kuza who lives in a shack, who does not really have a toilet, who does not vote because he's given up on the political system. That's, for me, my primary target. not targeting prominent people. Prominent people, yes, I will engage them. It'll be lovely to have them, but they are not my focus. My focus is Mrs. Kuzayo, who lives in an informal settlement, who does not have a toilet, who does not go out and vote because he's given up on our current political system. So asking me about those people, and I can assure you and I can show you the proof of millions of them who have already engaged on our platform.
We certainly will have further conversations. That much I don't doubt. Thank you so much, Herman Mashaba, founder of the People's Dialogue, talking to us about future plans and, of course, that open letter to the Institute of Race Relationships on their alleged interference or capture of the Democratic Alliance. And what we do know is that there will be a new political party come the next local government elections. Time for news with Leanne.